Thank you for joining, Alice. Welcome to the Real Estate Podcast. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing good.
Happy Friday, everyone.
Oh, thank gosh.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like we don't work 7 days a week.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Something about it, though, feels good. There's like a good energy out in the world, I guess.
Yeah, and contracts come in on Monday.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Are you showing houses this weekend?
Probably.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Always.
Is Alice ever not showing houses?
I am one of those people that's like, you want me to show a house with no notice? Okay, I'll be right there.
Nice. Do you, I kind of get this way, like when you don't have things going on or showings, does that make you feel weird?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually practicing being relaxed. It's a practice
It
for
is.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And being present with my family when things, like, oh, this is an opportunity for me to be relaxed and be present with my family. So I'm going to take it.
Is that hard? Is that a challenge?
It is.
Yeah.
It's challenging for me to shift gears. So it's easy for me to grind. And I can relax, but it's hard for me to transition between the two.
Yeah.
So that's a practice.
I hear you, and I have the same thing. Like when you say I'm gonna have some time with my family now, if your phone goes off, do you go answer it or do you just shut it off? Like how does that balance?
I answer it, and that hasn't been going so well.
You kind of have to. I mean, like when we're getting started, you got to take every call. You can't miss a call.
Yeah, and actually, it's come out with all of my girlfriends that I am the emergency contact for all of the children.
Because you always answer?
I'm the only one who answers my phone. So, I'm the emergency contact for kids I hardly know. I've had sick kids on my couch that I'm like, this is interesting.
Wow. Well, hey, it's I'm just kind of the same way, and the way I look at it is like I like to be reliable, and people know that they can get a hold of me. Like my wife is the opposite, and there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone's different, but like you can't get a hold of her a lot of times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I return calls if I miss a call or I'm on another call, which is common. And it is so important in our business. I know a lot of agents that are like, I have a hard turn off my phone time at night. I really understand that my clients need me when they're not working. So they need me in the evenings and the weekends, and I accept that. And my family actually does accept that for the most part. And I'm just getting better at just kind of respecting them and what they need and when they need me. And those moments where it's like, it can go to voicemail because this is actually important for my daughter or my son or my husband.
Right.
Like the other night when you were like, nope, just text right now. Put my son to bed.
That's right. Yeah, but I was texting because it's like I'm just laying in his bed, right?
I know the exact. I mean, I feel the exact same way.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have that or not, but I think it's like I said, it's starting out in real estate, and you have to get those calls, and then over time it compounds, and you just get more and more involved, and you realize how important it is, and people do need you. I mean, especially when you're under contract and people are spending $300,000, $400,000, $500,000.
Yes.
It's important that they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, and they're nervous.
They are.
Or they're freaked out, or the inspection report just came in. And I think that that's also, I've gotten much better at preparing clients for those moments. Like when the inspection report comes in, you are going to freak out.
Right.
We are going to go over it together.
Right.
And we're going to talk about what's really a concern and what just is the inspector doing their job and, trying to find every flaw with the house.
Right. I say the same thing. I'm like, it looks horrible every time you see these reports.
Yeah.
It really does.
But a lot of agents don't really prep their clients for the stages of the contract. And that's a mistake. They think that protecting their client is getting everything that their client might want and not preparing them for the reality of you're buying a used house. There are going to be some things.
And there's so many intricacies of working the deal and all the things that come up. It seems like you can't be taught all of this. You have to just go through the experience, and you'll come up with something to bring up to the next client. This is what might happen here on every deal, and you just get better and better over time.
Yeah. And I was teaching a class to new agents the other day, and I was telling them the exact same thing. So many new agents want to know everything before they get started.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you can't. You're never going to know everything.
Right.
You're never going to do any transactions. You have to get in action. And, we lean into you to help you when you're new, but you're just not going to learn unless you start doing transactions.
No,
Alex was talking about that yesterday.
Yeah, you just got to hop in there and figure it out.
Yeah, and when you hit something you don't know, just start dialing until somebody answers the phone.
Google.
Ask them questions.
YouTube.
Yeah.
I wonder, because I think us three are naturally like that. Like, we're okay to just get out there and fail and get better.
Yeah.
But some people, say, like, they hate that idea. I wonder if that is, like, that's just how we are, or we've kind of adapted to learn that that's how you have to be. You know what I'm saying?
Here's the way I view it. I mean, if you don't, for example, everything that I've been successful at doing and that has, been a good business move, I didn't know what I was doing when I first started doing it. And the way I viewed it is either, do it and figure it out, or don't do it and, don't get the experience or the business or the money and just sit there.
That is what it is. You just have to do it. You have. That's the only way, right?
And the fake it till you make it. It's like, I'm a real estate. When you first become a real estate agent, you don't feel super authentic.
Right.
You've passed your test. You are more educated than the general public, but you still have a lot to learn. But you got to get out there.
Yeah. And I hear you. And I think, like, I've told this to our agents as well, is that experience is great, 100%. But also the people that first get started, in a lot of ways, they have more energy and commitment than the older agents. And sometimes that's more valuable. Like, for me as a buyer, sometimes if I was going to pick an agent, I don't necessarily want the person that has 30 years experience. I might want the person that has 1 year and has no other clients, because they're going to put so much time and effort into helping me out. So there's a balance, so I think you can play to your strengths. Like, as a new agent, it's like, who cares about the experience? Like, hopefully you're with a good brokerage and a good team and you can rely on that experience, but then just put in the work to make up for that.
Yeah. And putting in the work is key.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. A lot of people will say, oh, I want to be a real estate agent because it's so flexible and I can work whenever I want. And I'm like, yeah, any 80 hours a week you want, you can work.
Right.
Totally flexible. I'm going to pick up my kids right now and then I'm going to work later.
And it's a tough business. I literally lost a client last week. I updated my phone, right? I did this update, and they apparently called me and left me a voicemail, and it wasn't on my phone. And so I took it into Apple, and then eventually it showed up. But I did a Zoom call with them. I showed their parents a couple houses, and they switched realtors because I missed one call. And I was like, I wish you would have just texted me or emailed me back. I get it. But literally, it just wasn't my fault. And even if it was, there's this balance of maybe I don't want to work with someone like that. You know what I mean?
That's Matt's biggest fear. One time a couple months ago, his phone.
She probably agrees with this too.
If this dies, I go to the Apple store right now.
That's what happened to me. My phone was messed. I was like, dude, there could be $1 million call coming in. This sucks.
Oh no. And my husband is he's fully aware. If this dies, this is money.
Yeah.
This is
it was.
money.
I kind of felt like it was kind of sad. I was freaking out. I'm like, I really am relying on this. But you're in the game, and I was telling him it's if you're playing basketball or anything, and you're sitting on the bench and you can't go get in the game, that's a bad feeling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you're trying to win the game.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan was on the bench, and he was freaking out.
Yeah.
Anyways,
it's true.
so I love just jumping in, but if you don't mind, could you kind of walk us through a little bit of your background and kind of
how you got into real estate? What made you want to get into real estate? I was telling Alice and Matt, I was really excited about this podcast because you're one of my favorite people to work with, and I don't know your story or how you got in here, and so very curious.
How far back do you want me to go?
As far back as far as you want to go.
Well, I was raised in a hippie community.
Okay.
I was born there, in between Bastrop and Elgin.
Okay.
And I was raised by...
straight up, hippie community.
Oh, yeah, straight up.
Wow.
It's called Greenbrier. It's still there. And I was raised by some really incredible people. My parents, but also the community members. So my best friend's parents, all the parents kind of helped each other out. And really smart people that all did different businesses, that a lot of entrepreneurs, lots of craftspeople that were running businesses. And I spent a lot of time just hanging out with different business owners, and I worked for them from a young age. Like, I'd be like, you have a job for me? Okay, I'll do it.
Like business owners in the community?
Yeah.
Or...
So because we lived kind of in the middle of nowhere and there was no jobs, they would, make a craft and then go sell it at the market, at the drag or the Renaissance fairs or different craft festivals. So, I learned how to do stained glass, and I learned how to do jewelry making, and I learned how to make clothes, and there was just all different.
That's cool.
Yeah, there was a toy maker, and so I kind of watched all of them running these small cottage industry businesses. And when I was 5, I wanted to take my dad out for Father's Day, but my parents were divorced. And so it felt really weird to ask my mom for money to take my dad out. Mm-hmm. And so I told my mom that, and she was like, well, how about I help you make money? So I bought cookie ingredients, and I went door to door and sold cookies.
Nice. That
I made. And my mom is real smart. She was like, as we went through the grocery store, we made a list of all the ingredients and the prices to buy them all. So when I sold those cookies, I knew exactly how much I had to take out to buy the ingredients for another batch.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Right? So then I knew my profit.
Right.
And at 5, I knew profit and business expense because my mom sat and taught me that.
That's cool.
And so I made enough money to buy enough ingredients for a double batch, and I had $4 left. So I had reinvestment money, and I was able to pay my mom back and still buy enough to. And so I did that for a while, and I made enough money to take my dad to a play. I took him to a play in Bastrop, and he took me to dinner. Mm-hmm. And that was it. Like, I was like, oh, this is cool. I can make my own money.
Yeah.
And I knew where all the teenagers hung out, and they were always good for cookie sales.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool.
In the hippie community.
So that's where I got started. And I did that business until I was like 12.
Wow.
Off
Really?
and on, because I could do it whenever I wanted.
Sure.
And I started making cakes and pies to order. And so I just ran that for a while. I started...
What'd you call it? Alice's...
I didn't really have a name for it.
She wasn't getting the branding down.
No,
I
wasn't getting the branding down for sure. And then I worked for a lot of different people at Renaissance fairs, and as a teenager, I started my first, my second business when I was 17, and I did henna and hair wraps at Renaissance festivals and music shows, and I made a chunk of money doing that. I did that for years, and I made enough money. I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. Classic.
Wow, yeah.
And I bought a duplex. And so my first property was a duplex in Windsor Park. I still own that duplex.
Did you live in one of the units, or you just bought it?
I intended to live in one of the units.
Okay.
But I never moved in.
So you were doing henna tattoos and hair wraps and saved up enough money to buy a duplex?
Yes. And actually, I'd saved this chunk of money. And Steve and I had just been married.
Where's Steve from?
Upstate New York.
Okay.
So I'd saved up this chunk of money. And then when I started actually looking into buying a duplex, that was back in the days of the 2080 loan. So I actually bought that duplex for $5,000. That's how much it cost me to get into it. Had tenants already, and it cash flowed like $200 a month, which is not a lot. But I was like, well, just to get in the door and get my first one.
So you found a realtor, and you kind of was just like, I'm going to trust you. What was that? Was it kind of scary? What did that process look
No,
like?
it was not scary. My dad
Your dad
was a realtor.
Oh, perfect.
And he actually became a realtor just for our own investment purposes, pretty much. Mm-hmm. And so I used him for a long time. And he actually got me, like, read the contract. Mm-hmm. Tell me what you think. Mm-hmm. Catch any of my mistakes, So that's how I started. Knowing the process was just buying properties myself.
What intrigued you about Rich Dad Poor Dad? And I imagine that's why you bought the duplex instead of putting the money in the stock market or something, right?
Yeah, I did have some money in the stock market. That money never does much. Like, it just literally is not a great vehicle for
Alex
me.
hates the stock market.
I hate it too.
I kind of do.
No
I
offense
kind
to all
of
of
do
you
too.
who love it, but like, it's not for me. There are people who can play that game, and I have played that game, and it's not my friend.
Me either.
So I have control over
Me
a property.
neither.
So like, I can control if it gets a paint job. I can't control that if somebody says something, the market crashes.
Right.
That's really uncomfortable for me. I can buy the ugliest house on the street and make it prettier, and now the whole street has gone up.
Right.
And houses don't really go bankrupt either. Public companies do sometimes.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's hard. What I always say, and I do believe this, like, if you know what you're doing and you do the right inspections and you go through the process, it is really hard to go wrong with real estate. Like, maybe you overpaid $20K, but if you have this long-term mindset and you did everything right, you'll get all that back. Stocks work the complete opposite a lot of times. You know what I mean? So that's what I preach on, is just like, know the steps, and it truly is hard to go wrong. And it's weird because I think about that statement, I believe in it, but I know there's people that are like, oh, that's definitely not true. But I'm not talking about like going out and flipping 5 houses at once and like over leveraging and all kinds of stuff like that, where that does happen. But if you were to take a little more conservative and long-term approach, it does seem like that statement's true.
Yeah. And I did the nomadic real estate thing. You know,
I did that too.
I bought a duplex. We lived in half. I bought another. It's like we moved every 2 years. Like, and the reason we didn't move sooner is because we needed to save up the money, and that's about how long it would take me squirreling away money. Steve had a good job, and I took it very seriously. Like, my job is to make this money grow. So I was like, he's like, why are we always broke? I'm like, we're not.
We
just don't have any access to the money because I'm hiding it from us.
we do the same exact thing. We're like, man, we got no money in the account, but we've got all these houses. And myself, I like that struggle and that pressure that I put on myself.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And the thing is like, but we made some mistakes along the way too. Like, we closed on a flip, and a week later, Lehman Brothers went under. I mean, like
you bought it. And
we signed, and a week, the day after, the news wasn't great. And the day after that was worse. And the day after that, it was worse. Wow. And I had a crew of, people in this house flipping it. We had, construction going on. We had foundation. We had HVAC. And we had everything to do on this house. Everything got touched. And we did it in a month, which was awesome.
Yeah.
And we couldn't sell it because no one could get a loan in that price point. So now a house that we were going to flip had a high interest rate because we were flipping it. Who cares? We're stuck. We have to rent it now. And that, I had not run the numbers for that. That was a big mistake. I now run the numbers for everything. Yeah. So I can be like, well, if I can't sell it, I can rent it, or I could short-term rent it, or I could, I know all the scenarios now. And I do this with my clients too, because I made the mistake. Sure. Let's not make it again if we can help it.
Right.
So you turned it into a rental, and we're losing a little bit of money.
Every month we paid like $150 extra because the rent didn't cover the mortgage and the expenses. And we did that for a couple years. And in the meantime, we had another child. We were living in a small duplex, and I was looking for a single family home for us to live in. And then I realized I own a single family home that I'm losing money on. So we moved into it.
Nice.
We refinanced it, owner occupied, got that interest rate down, lived in it for 2 years because that's what we do. And then we were able to, we moved and we continued to rent it for a couple years. And then we sold it.
That's cool. I mean, I always talk about if you're willing to make a lot of sacrifices in real estate, you can do a lot. And I think that scenario that you're talking about, a lot of people don't realize, like, when you don't know much about real estate, like, there are all these options. Like, people just think, buy it, rent it, that's it. But there's so many different things you can do when you really start learning about how it all works. Yeah. And that's a perfect example. Like, just so people know, like, you're able to get a loan in your personal name for your primary residence, probably get a really good interest rate, really good terms, which totally changes that deal from, I'm assuming maybe it was hard money or something like that.
It wasn't hard money, but it was a 7% interest rate, which now sounds crazy, but at the time it was just higher, right? It wasn't the 5% everyone was getting at the time, which is two percentage points. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And we just weren't, it just wasn't the plan. But you have to change your plans sometimes. Sure. And like when the market completely crumbles out from under you, you better be ready to pivot. Like, and do what it takes. And sometimes you have those blind spots. Like, I just didn't even see, we can move into it there and salvage this deal. We ended up making money on it in the long run. We just, it turned into a 5-year hold instead of a 2-month hold.
Right. Well, that's actually not a bad story for Lehman Brothers collapsing.
Well, it gets better though. I will tell you, that house, Bank of America tried to foreclose on me 5 times.
Wow.
And they didn't even hold the note. But because they had held the note before, title had cleared that and had paid them off. But then my title company went under. This is where I discovered title and how important they are, because they just kept foreclosing and I had no one to turn to because they sold my title policy to somebody in San Antonio that I could never get in touch with. I ended up refinancing it again to move it and get rid of that problem.
Yeah.
What did you learn? Is there anything you can point out, like, through that title process of, what would be valuable for people?
Yeah. So if you're having a problem, call title. Like, having a title officer that you can get a hold of, and literally after, and I had a baby and a 3-year-old, and I'm like running to the courthouse to try and, like, why is my house on the foreclosure rolls? I lost tenants over it. And by the time I got it to a real title officer that's like doing their job and competent, she was like, oh no, I've got this. We will handle this. And they just,
that's the key word right there. After I found a good escrow officer that was competent, it got handled.
Yeah. It got handled. And it felt like magic. I know she did a bunch of work for me, but for me as a consumer, it was handled. She said, we'll take care of it. Then after it was handled, she was like, this is what we did. And I took that, and I do that with my clients. I handle things before they even know they're a problem, but then I make sure to let them know. So this came up, but we've handled it already. We've done X, Y, Z. It's clear. We're good. Because you don't want them to not know that people are like, oh, real estate's so easy. It's like, do you know the magic we do behind the scenes?
Yeah. You do that to me on the deals that we sell to you. You're like, well, Alex, so this came up, but it's handled.
That's awesome. Nobody wants a problem without a solution, right?
Right. And I am always, even when I have to involve the client, I try to have multiple options for them, or a solid slam dunk option if I can. And occasionally you do have to deliver bad news.
Right.
Deliver it fast. Deliver it sooner than later. But I will brainstorm with lenders, title, anyone I have to. I'll pull in the team.
Right.
And be like, we got to fix this for this client. How are we going to do it? Okay, now that we have some ideas and some roadmaps, let's let them know what our plan is.
Right.
So many agents just whip up drama.
Right.
They think that that's fun, I guess.
And between other agents, all kinds of stuff. So
let's bring you back to your story real quick. So
wait, I want to do one thing real quick because I thought this was interesting on the title that Brian was talking about. I'm curious about your thoughts on this. So we had a guy come in yesterday, really detailed and meticulous, and he was saying, on every contract he gets, you know how you have the objection time for the survey or the title?
Yes.
He objects.
I know him.
You do? What do you think about that?
Objected to some of mine.
We were like, that's interesting. And he's the type of guy that reads like property code and the laws and everything.
Well, his dad does too.
Okay, so he helps him out on that. I actually know his dad. He's out in Leno.
Yeah. So,
has he objected on your deals?
On my contract?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So what do you think about this concept?
It was a new concept for me but he does it every time, and I have done it a couple times since then. I think it's interesting just to put it on record, but what it does is it freaks out the other side.
Right.
It really is unsettling for the other side because it's not a common practice, and so that is. I don't love that.
But it's a value, like if you're a buyer or if you're a client, it's a value. Would you say I'm learning about this, but it's a value add, right?
It is kind of, because then when you go to sell it, if there's an issue, although I just had an issue and I almost objected, but as my transaction, and I was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to assume the responsibility for this.
Sure.
So I don't know. I feel I have mixed feelings about it.
I hear you.
I don't think it's bad. I just think it's outside of the norm of what's normally done.
Yeah. And I hear you. I agree. Like, I thought it was interesting, but I don't necessarily think I'm going to go do it.
Yeah.
I might, maybe. I don't know. But I was like, that was interesting.
His reasoning was, I think his reasoning is mostly to be able to back out of the contract.
Oh, yeah. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. And that's why it freaks the other side out, because you're in the final hour at that point. And so it is very unsettling. I mean, when he did it to me, I was like, I picked your offer in a multiple offer. Like, what kind of dirty dog thing are you doing? And it was a personal house for him.
Yeah.
And he still closed on it.
He did. But, I was
funny.
like,
small world.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
All right. Anyways.
So duplex, and at this point, you bought your duplex, or even fast forward to Lehman Brothers, that flip. At this point, are you just investing and flipping? Do you have your license yet? No,
I don't have my license. My dad's a broker at this point. He's really small broker. He just does our own things and a little for friends here and there. So I'm using his license. I'm using him as my agent, and I'm running the small empire that we've got going on. And I'm a yoga teacher and a birth doula. And I've got 2 small children. So I'm working, but I'm working kind of these flexible situations. My office was in the corner of the living room. Usually had toys on it. I usually had babies on me. And I looked at real estate all the time. Like, I was an obsession of mine. I was always looking at deals. I was always analyzing them, trying to see if they would work.
Well, if you can maybe break that down a little bit for other people that realize that they need to look at deals, what does that look like? Is it hours on the MLS? I know it's at least for me, it's everything all the time as much as I can. But is there a way to kind of break it down a little bit?
It's everything all the time. So in Rich Dad Poor Dad, they say you're going to look at 100 houses before you know what a good deal is. And now the benefit is you get to look at a lot of those houses online, and you get to run the numbers online. So you don't actually physically go into 100 houses, which I still meet people who are like, we have to go into 100 houses. I'm like, oh, no, we do not. You crazy. You do that without me.
I'm weird. Yeah, you're right. And you're probably the same way, but like whenever I'm showing a house, I know because you have the investor mindset.
Right.
We have the ability to get a ton of value out of everything we do.
Yes.
So you might be showing your clients' houses, but you're also seeing houses maybe for yourself or maybe for other clients, or maybe you'll get the listing or whatever, lease it. I mean, when you start thinking like that, it opens up so many opportunities.
And so I do spend a lot of time on the MLS and looking at deals. I have searches that, are emailed to me, just like I would email them to a client because I want to know what's happening. So I see every duplex, every fourplex, every apartment complex that comes on the market.
Right.
I also have CoStar, so I'm doing commercial. I'm looking at the commercial properties and stuff too. But that way I know when if a client calls me about a property, I've already seen it.
Yeah.
I've probably already run the numbers on it.
And it's pretty easy in this market with the duplexes and fourplexes, because there's like, if you go on MLS right now, I think there's like 75.
Yeah, it holds steady between 75 and 82. It pops up to 100 every once in a while, but not much. And then it dropped during COVID.
Yeah,
significantly.
But that just makes it easy to see all the new ones. Where if maybe we were living in a different market, we'd be like, we don't want to see all these all the time. Maybe we would, but it allows you to really understand the market well. Because Austin is a pretty small market at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I look at the entire MLS.
Right.
So, and because if you're putting them in your spreadsheet all the time, you're only adding a couple every day.
Right.
You're only analyzing a couple every day. I've already got them in my sheet. So any one that anyone talks to me about, I'm like, oh yeah, this is what I've got. What do you have? What are your numbers? Because I'm not going to be the one running the numbers for an investor. They need to run their own numbers.
I agree.
I will check their numbers.
Yeah.
I will run my own numbers, but they need to take responsibility for their own investment.
Totally. We were talking about that with the wholesaling. Like, you've done a couple deals with us. Like, we don't go and say, here's the rehab cost, here's the ARV and all that, because I don't know why we would, right? Like, the buyer should do that on their own. But I guess if you're, New Western or somebody and you're doing it at scale with all these single family, maybe it makes sense. But like, I don't want to give people these numbers.
Well, it all depends anyways. And I mean,
it does.
I know you don't want my numbers. You want your numbers,
Oh,
so.
yeah. You know what I do with other people's numbers? Throw them away.
Right.
Because that's what they're saying.
It just makes you look
and
bad.
Who
though,
knows?
If you're, and most people are way off.
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, and that's the thing. It's like, for newer investors, do not depend on somebody else's numbers ever. Just don't. Like, and when you're new, expect to pay for your education. And part of that is like, you might hold a property longer. You might lose some money on your first flip. You might break even. If you break even on your first flip, that is a win. Because it always costs more and it always takes longer.
Yeah.
And so that's part of your education.
Right.
You're paying for that experience and learning, and you'll learn on every single deal.
I agree. And it's hard. This is kind of a little side note, but when people are new in the business, they're the ones that a lot of times that are all of a sudden on social media all the time.
Yeah.
And they're like talking about it and sending these deals. And I see it every day. Like yesterday, I looked at a deal from a wholesaler that another wholesaler sent me the same deal marked up $5,000. And the original deal was on the MLS in the first place. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
It's
like, boys, you don't know what you're doing, honey.
I'm like, come on. I looked at this yesterday, and they marked it out. This is a house down South Austin. And
I know that house.
You know what I'm talking about?
It's been pitched to me. And I was like, that was on the MLS.
That's what I'm saying.
And the reason I know it was on
now.
the MLS is because it's part of my search, because it's in my zip code.
Yeah. And it's
so I know
220.
every house that comes on the market in my zip code. Why wouldn't I? I'm a professional.
Well, the good thing about that, the way I look at that is, okay, now I have a property that I'm pretty sure the wholesaler is going to drop. So the listing agent and the seller are going to be a little bit upset. So now there's even more of an opportunity for me to buy it below value.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. You're waiting for that.
Right.
Oh, I get that totally. And one of the things that I'm doing when I'm, analyzing properties, looking at properties, showing properties, I will find a deal. When I find a deal, I'm dialing. I'm like, I found one that works. Are you want to buy it? And I kind of have my hot list, of investors that I know are doing something or want to be doing something. And I always get the question, like, why don't you buy it? It's like, I can't buy every deal.
Right.
The deal of the century comes around once a week, Right. And honestly, like, that's a client for life now. I give them something that's so good that I would have bought it, and they are very happy.
How do you feel about, if you know it's a good deal and you feel pretty confident that you can sell it to someone, yourself putting it under contract, and maybe not, maybe wholesaling it to them, maybe not, maybe just transferring them the contract and making the commission?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like to
Yeah.
not lose the deal. Cause I do that. Like if I find a duplex, I'm like, this is a great deal. I'm like, I'll just go put it under contract and maybe I'll wholesale it. But if it's to a client of mine, I'll wholesale it to them for nothing and just
Right.
be the agent. Is that something
I haven't done that, but I have thought about it.
Yeah. You
know?
might as well, right? I
Yeah.
mean, if you feel like it's a good deal.
And I mean, there are deals that are like, if you don't buy this, I am going to buy it.
Well, that's even another, yeah.
You know, like, and I've told clients that, and I'm like, I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
Like, I'm only giving you first shot because I will make the commission anyways. So it's a win-win. Mm-hmm. You're going to be happy. I mean, my number one lender, I put him in a duplex years ago, and it's like, it cash flows like crazy. He loves it, you know? And now he's like, don't even ask. If you find something like that again, just write up the contract and I will sign it. Mm-hmm. So I did that to him the other day. I actually sent him a thing because, you know, like I need a pre-approval letter for Jason Palm for this much. It's for a duplex that he will be buying.
Here's
and he
the
was
DocuSign.
like, and I texted him, I was like, I need a pre-approval letter. Check it out. He's like, that's funny.
That's awesome.
But, you know.
You needed him to write himself a pre-approval letter?
And sign the DocuSign.
And sign the DocuSign for the contract
Right.
that we were putting in for him. He did it because he trusts me now. But that's the thing is when somebody's new, they don't know who you are and what you're up to. And I mean, my reputation is important to me.
I'm glad you said that because that's one of the things I wanted to touch on was how you and I originally met. Mm-hmm. And then we've done some deals together. Yeah. It's really interesting to me. That's why I'm so big on networking and meeting people is like, I'm not sure, regardless of it's you or not, but we might not have gotten a deal done if you never met me. Because you already kind of knew me and a little bit trusted me, which allowed that deal to be a little bit easier.
That's right.
So like, that's like one thing that I point out is there's tremendous value in that reputation, meeting, building that network. And it's just fascinating. Like we probably wouldn't have done the deal.
No.
All because we had coffee, you know, I don't know, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it was.
Right. Yeah. And that is true. I mean, that's why I take the calls and I meet with all the lenders and and there are times where I'm like, I can't this month. Please call me back next month. Let's put something on the calendar for a month from now. Because there are times of the year where you're just
too busy.
You got to service the clients and that's all you're doing is servicing the clients.
Sure.
And the business. And so those other relationships have to kind of take a backseat for a minute, but not forever. I mean, I want to know all the lenders. I want to know all the title people. I want to know all the agents.
Yeah, I agree. And I literally reach out to people every day and they're like, why are we meeting? And it can be kind of frustrating, but I guess you just have to understand, like, some people just don't view it that way.
I was kind of like that with you.
Were you? And I was persistent?
Yeah. I was like, why should we meet? And then I was like, oh, because everyone should know Chucky.
So that's the thing is like, you know, I guess I just have to get over that and be like, well, here's why. Like, I think I can add value. I'd love to try. Here's our YouTube video, whatever it may be. But that's the challenge.
There's networkers and there's people who are not networkers, and I'm not a networker. Yeah. And so I completely get it. You know, the last thing I want to do is go meet somebody random. Honestly,
I get it, and I agree with you. I guess the way I view it is like the people I'm reaching out to are realtors, and so I'm like, if you want to be a good realtor, this is the way to do it. This is the mindset to have. I'm sure you can be successful doing it other ways, but that's like, I mean, when I know what, like, everything that I have going on, I feel very confident that I can bring value to these people, and I want to do that. Yeah. But they're just like, I don't have time for that.
Well, I know how valuable it is too, though. And that's why I love the fact that you love to do it. Because we'll just let Matt go out and do all the networking, and then it works out great.
Something else. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the great thing about teams.
It is
that you can balance each other and, you know.
So how does that work for you? Do you have someone that's kind of complimenting you on the flip side, or is it just all you right now?
It's mostly me. However, Steve is very involved with our investing too. So he, I will be like, I found something. And he's like, give me 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. He runs the numbers. He doesn't trust my numbers, which is a good thing. And sometimes he's like, go. And sometimes he's like, it's not as good as you think.
Did you kind of teach him with it, or he was already kind of had this skill set?
We did it together. So we read Rich Dad, Poor Dad at the same time. We, made the decision to buy a duplex together. So we've been on this journey together. He balances me. He's more reserved. He's more like Alex, where he's kind of like reserved. He's very smart. He's a data analyst. So he can run some numbers.
He loves numbers.
He loves numbers, and he's kind of a jack of all trades. So when we first started, he's very handy. He worked in construction for a while when he was younger. He has some skills. Mm-hmm. And that was helpful when we were starting out, because we were the handyman and the cleaner and the everything. Mm-hmm. Now we are not.
And Steve's about to be full-time Duffy investment business, right?
We'll see what happens.
Nice.
He gets to choose what he does. Yeah. I have a feeling that I'm still going to be the runner of the empire.
You're leading the charge. So tell us kind of where you're at today. I mean, you've obviously being entrepreneurial, mm-hmm. buying your own deals, representing other people. Is there a clear kind of vision or goal? Or, for me, there's not. It's just like, go do as much as I can, keep growing.
Yes, there is a clear vision and goal.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've been really working on that lately, because it was like you just charge ahead and keep going and do another deal, and it's never going to be enough. And
mm-hmm. I know I need to have, like, I think about it all the time, like how do I come up with some direction? And I think it's just a process of trying to get there. But
it is.
Would love to hear, how you got there and what it is.
It is a process. So, back to the story a little bit. I was doing all of those things, teaching yoga, being a birth doula, raising our kids, investing in real estate. And honestly, I was killing it in the yoga world. I was pretty well known. I was teaching teachers. I was a teacher trainer. I developed curriculum, and I was making $20,000 a year. And I was working a lot. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's just not a living. I'm not making a living doing this. I love it, but I'm not making a living. Mm-hmm. So I needed something where I could make more money. And it was like yoga, the birth community, or real estate. And real estate was really the only one that I thought I could actually make a paycheck that was gonna make a difference for my family. And so I told Steve, I was like, I'm going to get my real estate license. And he goes, it's about time. And then I told my dad, who I was nervous about telling, because it's like, I didn't want to work for him. Mm-hmm. I knew I was going to go to a brokerage. Mm-hmm. And he goes, I've been wanting to retire so bad and get rid of my license, so I'll use your license. And I was like, great. So everyone just was like, oh, that's perfect. Mm-hmm. They saw something before I saw something. Mm-hmm. And so I did that, and I've been licensed for 4 years, mm-hmm. and full-time selling for 4 years. I just hit the ground and just started.
You've been only licensed for 4 years?
Yes.
Wow, yeah, I figured it was a lot longer.
I thought you were the 2012 KW Rookie of the Year or something.
I was the Rookie of the Year, but not in 2012.
What year was it? 16 or?
It was 18.
18.
Yeah. So in ABOR, it's the first 24 months you're licensed. Mm-hmm.
I got Rookie of the Year too in Corpus.
Yeah.
Nice.
Congratulations. It's awesome. That was fun, and I had no idea. I honestly didn't know. I was not comparing myself against other agents. I was just doing the work, head down, trying not to drown, mm-hmm. and trying to make money, for my family. Mm-hmm. And so I've been a real estate investor for about 15 years, mm-hmm. and full-time sales for 4.
Wow.
So
you've done a lot and learned a lot in that
mm-hmm.
time period.
So what's the clear vision moving forward? What'd you ask?
The clear vision moving forward. And this is a work in progress for me, because it's really something I've just started focusing on, and I have a coach who's helping me focus on it. But the clear vision for me is $100,000 in cash flow, passive income. I hate the word passive income, by the way, for 2021. And the reason I hate that word is because it's never been passive to me.
Sure.
I'm the one who manages the portfolio. Mm-hmm. So
even if you had someone else managing it, I don't think it's passive.
That's right. You have to manage the manager.
Right.
So I don't call it, I just call it cash flow. But so $100,000 in cash flow, 2021.
Cool.
And that is obtainable with what we are creating in our portfolio right now. And we've made a lot of changes. You guys know I'm selling 4plexes. I'm got the duplexes still. I'm buying the industrial property. We've got the vacation rental up and going. We have guests checking in today.
Is it your first guest?
No, we had guests the day we closed, checking in the day we closed.
Nice.
So, you know, it's like we've got kind of the portfolio has just shifted a little bit. And then within the next couple years, I want to double that.
Nice.
Double the passive income?
Yeah.
And it's very possible whenever you have this, you know, you create this asset base has this income. Now you get to go to the banks and leverage up and keep building and multiplying. And
yeah. We're at the hockey stick right now. So it just feels like at the beginning it takes a long time to build, especially when you don't have a lot of money to begin with. We didn't have a lot of money to begin with. So it was like the slog uphill. But I've learned a lot of tricks on how to pop to the next level.
Right.
And so I help my clients with that because you can get bogged down. You cannot have the vision, but it's like I utilize the cash out refinance.
Yeah.
I utilize all the different tools to be able to take it to the next level.
Yeah.
Keep that money moving and keep the debt to income ratio just perfect.
Yeah. Well, and I talk about this all the time. The coolest thing for me, because I've been doing it for about 11 years, is every single year gets better.
Oh, yeah.
And always, like the network, the net worth, the cash flow, the deal closing, everything. But now that you say that, I even think more about not only does it get better, like it gets exponentially better. Like you might grow 5%, then 15, then 25. You know, it just keeps getting better and better, depending on if you're obviously putting in the work, working with integrity, and playing the long game.
It keeps getting better. And another thing that I read the other day and started thinking about was the fact that, because I mean, due to the fact that all three of us go broke all the time, you know, it's rough, right? And so when you make that decision or you close on, you know, 3 properties in 1 month or in a short period of time, it's hard to be like, damn, like when is this gonna start paying off? And the truth of the matter is that all the work we're putting in today is really gonna pay off a year from now. And that has been the case. But each time I pull the trigger today, it's a little rough until a year from now.
Pot in.
Right.
You know, like it's like Steve and I would be like, and here goes our entire bank account.
Yeah.
But now we don't do that, honestly, because we need a cushion. So, but to us, it's changed, right?
Yeah. There's different stages, right? And different
Yeah.
phases of what you're attacking and how you're going about it.
Yeah. And so like somebody sent me a deal yesterday and I looked at it and it wasn't good actually, but it sounded good, you know, because when they're talking, it always sounds good. But once I analyzed, I realized it wasn't good. And I was like, okay, how are we going to make this work? And it was like, well, we can, but then we're pot in, you know, it's like, I mean, we're deploying a lot of cash right now. You guys know. Since you're on the other side of the deal I'm doing.
So you're buying a pretty big warehouse project.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it's a pretty big project for us. It's the biggest one we've ever done personally. And, you know, that takes more cash.
Sure.
Everything's more expensive. I mean, we just paid for the appraisal. $3,800.
$3,800. Yeah, we're paying for 4 right now. It's gonna be like $10,000.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, put on my big girl pants.
Yeah.
Write the check. It's just how it is.
We got the survey cut in half though.
Yeah, we did. I found a surveyor that would.
It's
do
crazy
it for half.
when you like ours. We're refinancing 4 properties, 2 single family homes. One of them was like $800, and the other one was like $250. They're both single family. I'm like, why is this one this? And can we just get it the same price? And he's like, yeah, we'll do that. I'm like, just gotta ask the question sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, we just save.
Oh, I did. I
$400.
asked. I was like, wait a minute. Why is this? He was like, that's how much it is. I got other bids. This actually was the cheapest. I was like,
So how'd you guys get it down?
okay.
She found another
Nice.
surveyor.
Yeah, I just found another surveyor that
Good.
would do it for half.
Good.
So,
That's awesome.
yeah, I mean, it's just a different, the game just gets bigger is the thing. It's the same game. It is Monopoly, right?
Do y'all like playing Monopoly?
No, but I loved it when I was a kid.
I love playing
I
Monopoly.
love it. People don't like playing with me though.
Same.
Oh no, people don't like playing
I
with me
definitely
either
like-
because
I try
I
to-
always win. And even when I don't win, people think I won.
I like come up with my own rules. I'm like, all right, Alice, I'll owner finance this from you, or I'll do a sale leaseback, but I don't have to pay you for the next 2 rounds. But
Oh,
then
yeah.
after that, if I land on it, I pay 20% premium.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
what are you doing?
Yeah. That's how you play.
Yeah, is that how
That's
you
what-
play too?
oh, yeah.
Right on.
And it's
love
all
Monopoly.
handshake deals.
Oh yeah, handshake deals.
Oh yeah, totally. Monopoly was definitely, as a kid, I loved that game. I now play better games. There are better games out
Yeah.
there. But my poor children, like, mama doesn't play to lose.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm not throwing a game.
You ever heard of Codenames? That's my favorite game. We'll have to play that
No.
sometime.
No.
It's awesome.
Okay.
Well, anyways, Alice, I know we all got a busy day, and I think we'll have to probably continue this. We would love to have you back on. And I think, how can people get a hold of you? I think Alice is a great realtor. You're easy to get a hold of, right?
I am.
Yeah.
You can find my number on the.
Yeah. Reach out to us. We'll connect you
Internet.
with Alice. We appreciate your time. We want to support you any way we can. And thank you so much for joining today. Is there anything else you want to say to anyone
No,
listening?
just thanks for having me.
Yeah.
And
Follow Alice on social media, right?
yes, I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I am even on TikTok now.
All right. I'm sure you'll respond quickly if people reach out.
I will. I do my best, although sometimes those messengers get a little lost. So it's always best to email me or call me.
Yeah.
My phone number's on the internet. It's easy to find me. And I love helping new agents. I love helping investors, homeowners. I'm just ready to help people. And that's
Good.
kind of what I'm focused on, especially as we move into 2020. I feel like we are going to have a shift.
Yeah.
And that shift it's going to be key to really listening to people and what they need and figuring out how to help them.
Love it. That's a good way to end. And we'll put you guys in contact with Alice, if you need it. So thank you, Alice.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Alice. Have a good day.
Thank you.